We're back, the Headless YouTuber and your trusty pug Pudge. We have tried filming this intro so many times. I put nose butter on him this morning and this is him. This is like 2 hours now. He's just been licking. I'm gonna grab your tongue. I'm gonna grab it. Okay, so you're gonna have to excuse the licking, but yeah, he's always so dramatic when I put his nose butter on. He thinks that it's like poison or something. So this morning I woke up feeling like garbage. I think that I have like allergies or something. I don't know what it is. The only allergy medicine that I have is gonna make me drowsy, so I kind of just have to power through it. And yeah, it's just kind of a little bit of a tension headache. I'm super stuffy. I keep sneezing. So yeah, I think today is gonna be a rough filming day. So I'd like to get through it as quickly as possible, but I do have a lot to do today. So as you can tell by the title, I am doing a few things. The first thing I'm gonna do is repot my friend's really big philodendron giganteum. It is root bound in moss and it needs to be moved to aeroid soil. So I'm gonna show you that process. And then I have a plant that's been in a propagation parfait for several months. It's been one of my rehab Monstera deliciosa, potentially Brazilian common form, I'm not sure. I'll tell you right now, it's finicky like a Brazilian common form, but the features don't quite match. I don't know. I really don't know what it is. All I know is that I've never had this much difficulty rooting a Monstera deliciosa. So I do think that it's at a point now where it's ready to be moved to a permanent substrate. So I'm going to do that today. And then I have yet again another Thai constellation that I need to rehab that I'm actually going to get into a propagation parfait. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when I talk about a propagation parfait, I'll show you that later. But yeah, if you've been here a while or you follow me on Instagram, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I hate this shirt. But all right, so I guess let's what Pudge said. Oh my god. So this is my friend's philodendron giganteum. It is truly living up to its name. It doesn't look that big on film, but this thing is a beast. So it is in moss right now. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to find an orchid pot larger than an 8-inch. So I actually am potting it back into an 8-inch pot, but I think it's gonna be fine because there is a lot of moss in here. So I don't think that like trying to squeeze, you know, the roots back into an 8-inch pot is going to be an issue. But you can see, like right here, we've got some runaway roots. So this thing is definitely ready to be taken out of moss. Let me just show you how I kind of tackle something this dense without ruining the sphagnum moss and with as little sort of like root disturbance as possible. All right, so I have a big bowl of water here and I'm basically just going to remove the plant from the pot and get all of the moss into here. And what I'm gonna do is just soak all of this moss and get it nice and wet. I have the entire root ball submerged in water, and I'm basically just gonna start pulling the moss away from the roots. And the reason you want to make sure your moss is really wet when you're untangling it is because when it's dry, it becomes very brittle and it almost just like crumbles. And so if you want to preserve your moss and make your moss last a really long time, then yeah, you want to make sure that you're handling it the right way so that it doesn't break apart. But I think I definitely underestimated how root bound this thing was. It is like a solid mass. So yeah, this is gonna take me a while to untangle, but basically what I do is just kind of wiggle it around in the water, and you just have to be really patient and just start kind of pulling individual fibers away from the roots until it's free. So I know some people literally will just like go and chop the bottom off, but we don't do that around here. You are going to have some root breakage. It's kind of, it just comes with the territory of using a substrate like moss. I would say just to make sure to protect those primary roots, so the big juicy ones that come directly from the stem, and if you have some root breakage of the secondary roots, meaning the smaller roots that come out of the primary roots, then that's like the best way that you can minimize sort of the shock that it goes through. But otherwise, it's really just a game of sort of pick and pull. And I am going to chop off some of these roots because you can see some of the import roots are rotted and just not really doing anything for the plant anymore. So once I can get all of this moss off, then I'll start cleaning up the roots. Wowza. Ugh. These leaves are so big and they're just in the way. So what I like to try and do is kind of find the big primary roots and just start with one and just see where it's leading to. And just focusing on one primary root at a time is sometimes the best way to navigate yourself out of this mossy mess. And a reason why I love sort of mixing substrates instead of just doing straight moss is because it does make it a lot easier to untangle once it comes time to get it into a permanent substrate, because when you have things like perlite and leca that are breaking up the moss, or that are kind of, you know, mixed into the moss, it doesn't get as crazily root bound like this, or just harder to untangle. But I think what a lot of people worry about is trying to not break roots, but the bottom line is roots are gonna break, and there's really no way around it, especially if you kind of wait this long. I definitely would have repotted this a lot sooner, but Aaron has been super busy with work lately and it happened. So I'm sort of kind of clearing some way here. I'm gonna try and massage as much as I can underwater because it really loosens it up when it's able to kind of flow freely rather than just picking it apart. And I can feel a lot of the fibers loosening up under here, which is great. It doesn't help that this plant is super heavy, but we're gonna make it through. And feeling a little bit pressure because this is not my plant and I don't want it to go through too much shock. A question that I'm asked pretty often about using moss as a sort of propagation and acclimation substrate. When you're gonna move it into aroid soil after this, you don't have to remove every single fiber of moss from the roots. It's totally fine if you have some stuck to it. And actually I find that when you leave a bit of moss on the roots, it kind of helps with the transplant, and it's less of a shock for the plant when it moves to an aroid soil with a little bit of that moss still left on the roots. The only thing is moss holds a ton of water, so you don't want it to be like really clumped on. You want to minimize like the density of that moss on the roots as much as possible, so that once it's in aroid soil and you do your regular watering, it's not holding on to like excess water that it can't use and get rid of, and you run the risk of something like root rot, or like, you know, bacteria or something kind of forming inside of your pot. So a little bit of moss stuck on the roots, totally fine. Don't even worry about trying to remove every single fiber, but try not to leave a big mass of it if possible. I am breaking a lot of these secondary roots, but it's the only way. All right, so you can see I kind of got the bottom untangled here. Thank goodness. We are making some progress, slowly but surely. And my arm is like on fire. This thing is so heavy. All right, so here's where we are with the roots. I mean, I'm about halfway through now, and you can see the bottom is pretty much completely free. And we still have a ton of these primary roots nice and intact. We are finally untangled. That was probably the second most difficult moss untangling I've ever done my entire life, but we still have a good amount left. If I had to estimate, I want to say that we lost a quarter of the roots. Most of them were these really fine secondary roots, but all of the primary roots are intact. None of them broke, so I'm feeling really good about it. It's gonna have tons of space to move around in that 8-inch pot. So before I get it potted up, I'm gonna do the thing I always do. So these are what have been breaking off. These are not primary roots, they're secondary roots that are coming out of these primary roots. So not ideal, but not the end of the world. So anyway, like I was saying, I'm going to clean this chunk a little bit before I pot it up because I want to get more roots to push out of the stem rather than just these roots. So usually when you kind of give the stem a nice clean and you sort of disturb the soft tissue on the stem, it sort of wakes it up. And this technique has been really, really good for me in the past, and it's what I do with all of my imports and what I basically do at any major repotting like this. So yeah, I'm just gonna get it cleaned up now. And I'm just using an earwax scraper to get this nice and clean. Okay, so I have cleaned off a pretty good amount. I'm just gonna give it a quick wash now. While I'm waiting for the plant to dry off a little bit, I'm going to be showing you what I'm potting it in. So Erin brought this soil to me. This is just indoor potting soil, perlite, fir bark, worm castings, horticultural charcoal, and a little bit of fine grade leca. That's these little black balls. I'm gonna be adding a little bit more fir bark and some sphagnum moss. I find that when you transplant a plant that has been super root bound in moss and you add a little bit of moss to your aeroid soil, it just makes that transplant a little bit easier on the plant. So I'm just gonna amend this a little bit and then we'll get it potted up. All right, that looks about right to me, and I guess let's get it potted up now. Okay, so I'm finally done. That took like 2 hours. I was not mentally prepared for it to be that difficult, but here we are. Luckily did not ruin the new leaf. It's still really, really fragile and soft. But yeah, honestly, if I had a 10-inch pot, I would have done a 10-inch pot, but I think it's gonna be okay in here for a while. You can see there's plenty of soil in there. There's a lot of room for the roots to kind of grow, and I would have loved to pot this a little bit deeper so that some of this stem could be under soil, but the chunk is really long. I didn't want to cut it because this isn't my plant, but I think that this should at least be okay for the rest of the year. The next repot is definitely going to need to be a 10 or 12-inch pot though, but yay, so glad I got that done. And now I'm gonna go have lunch and then I will be back. I really need to go grocery shopping because I had oatmeal for lunch and I think I hate oatmeal, but anyway, moving along. So I mentioned in the beginning my propagation parfait. This is kind of the term I've coined it. I call it a parfait because it kind of looks like a parfait. It's like very layered, all different substrates, and I think people are confused on when I use this method, and I do not use this method every time I propagate something. I only use it on my plants that are really finicky, that keep rotting, that are just giving me a little bit of a harder time. So this is a Monstera, wow, this angle, good job. This is a Monstera deliciosa. I think it's a Brazilian common form, but I'm not 100% convinced. I will tell you that it is as finicky as a Brazilian common form, which is why it's in this. And honestly, I'm really, really scared to take it out of this, but I think it's time. Like, it has wrapped around the bottom several times now, and yeah. Today's the day. So I am gonna be moving this to pond. I'm feeling good about it being in pond because most of it is leca roots, and I think it's gonna be okay. So, oh my gosh, okay. Oh my gosh, Pudge, ew. He farted really badly. That smells awful, buddy. Sheesh. The moment of truth. Actually, I should probably get this into a bowl or something. All right, here goes nothing. It still smells like fart, Pudge. Thanks a lot. Oh my gosh, this is really, really densely packed in this. I honestly should have repotted this a while ago, but because of how finicky it is, I've just left it because I'm too scared. So, oh my gosh. Why do I do these things to myself? Oh, I don't like that sound. Ugh. Oh, my arms are already so tired from repotting that gigantium. I'm exhausted. Oh, this is not good. Okay. Just come out. Why? Why are you doing this to me? Watch this thing go flying. What is that? I hate this. I hate it right now. I knew I should have done this sooner. I just knew it. Okay, we're just gonna wiggle and wiggle and wiggle. Okay, I'm gonna try and loosen some of this leca and perlite. There goes my brand new manicure. But, you know, what else is new? Oh yeah. These roots look awesome, but oy vey. All right, so this is it. We've got leca flying everywhere. The Instagrammer in me wants to take a photo of this, but I am going to resist the urge. Okay, I'm just gonna pop off all of this leca. So this was the original aerial root on this cutting, and it was rooting just fine. It was not having any issues. It was pushing out new growth, new roots. And I wanted to be able to continue that sort of rooting process in leca. But as you can see here, I was working with a really dicey stem, and it still doesn't look great, but it's completely calloused over now. But I had to like hollow this out because the rot was just so bad. It was super mushy, and I was onto my last node. So I wanted to be able to keep this part on perlite so that it wasn't as wet, it was more porous, and it could breathe a little bit more. And it seemed to have done the trick because I was able to keep this aerial root in leca and keep rooting it. I was able to keep this part in perlite to prevent it from rotting, and then topping it with moss just kind of enclosed some of that humidity in there. And it didn't quite, I wanted to try and push out some more roots from the top, and you can see it's kind of starting right here, these white things. But yeah, I'm glad that I chose that combination because I think it worked like a charm. So I did try rooting this purely in moss. I tried doing it purely in leca, and it just kept like rotting and rotting and rotting because this stem used to be pretty long. I actually used to have 2 nodes, and I lost both of those in purely perlite, purely leca. So that's what prompted me to just mix the substrates and just see if, you know, the properties of each of those substrates could work its magic, and it did. So I'm a little bit scared to touch these roots, and I don't really think I want to untangle it all that much. I just want to get all of this moss off, to be honest with you, because I am going to be moving it to Attribution with a little bit of coarse perlite, and I really don't want a bunch of moss in there. But at the same time, I don't want to disturb these roots too much. I am truly afraid of these roots. I'm just afraid of this plant in general, and usually monsteras don't scare me. Non-variegated monsteras, to clarify. I'm very terrified of any variegated monstera, to be honest. All right, so yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. It's looking really good. I want to kind of get this untangled, but honestly, if I leave it, it's gonna be fine. It's just gonna keep growing, and it shouldn't be disrupted, or it shouldn't stunt the growth of the root production at all. And now we move it to Attribution. Okay, well, I don't know why I did that. Okay, so I have some rinsed Attribution here. Honestly, after using the Attribution made by my friend Jing. I really don't like Le Choose-Upon brand Le Choose anymore. I mean, it's great, like functionally it's great, but I love that the DIY Le Choose-Upon is more coarse. This is just like so fine, and I find that it can be really, really dense and heavy. So what I've been doing is adding some coarse perlite to the mix to kind of aerate things a little bit. So I'm gonna add some. And it also makes your Le Choose-Upon go way further. And people have asked me where I get my Le Chouse-Upon. The only time I've bought it myself, I got it straight from the Le Chouse-Upon website, which good luck getting it because they sell out so fast, which is why everybody is kind of doing a DIY version now. I'm pretty sure Fern did a DIY pon video, so you should watch that. But yeah, anyway, one day I'll try making it myself, but I'm telling you, it's not gonna happen this month, and it's probably not gonna happen next month. But yeah, I really like mixing coarse perlite in it because it lightens it up a little bit, and it makes it less heavy on the roots, and it makes the pon go stretch further. I'm gonna make this one super perlite-y because of the plant that I'm working with. I'm very, very scared of root rot. I'm gonna be using the same vessel that it was in before. I just gave it a good clean. And I'm gonna start by adding some down at the bottom. Oh my gosh, this is so large. Okay, so I've got about this much down at the bottom, and just look how scrumptious that looks once you mix it with coarse perlite. I'm going to gently place it back in, and there's still so much moss left on these roots, but I cannot be bothered today. I'm gonna start my period soon, and all I want to do is crawl into bed and watch bad movies on Amazon Prime. Okay. Before I fill the rest with the Choose-Upon, I'm going to add some mycorrhizae and sprinkle it on the roots. If you guys haven't watched Fantastic Fungi on Netflix, you gotta watch it. It's so good. And it'll talk about the relationship between fungi and plants. I'm gonna just fill the rest now. All right, I'm going to grab a chopstick. Oh, my arm is so sore. Okay, so everything is filled. I got most of the roots in there tucked in pretty well, but the top here, I didn't want to like shove it in. It was pretty stiff. So I'm not gonna worry about those too much because the top, you can see it's missing. This is a top cutting and the top leaf rotted inside of the sheath. So I think that the new growth is still gonna come from maybe over here. So I don't wanna cover it completely in Latrusicon and perlite, just in case it's too dense and it can't push out. I think it's gonna happen like right here. I can feel a bump. So if anything, I think what I'll do is just top this with a little bit of moss and call it a day. But otherwise, everything is looking pretty good. I know that it looks kind of scary because of the mycorrhizae, but you get used to it once you work with it for a while. Hopefully this does okay. I do plan on doing an update video maybe in about 2 or 3 weeks, so I will make a note to include this just to show you if it makes it or not. Otherwise, fingers crossed. Oh, and one last thing. I am going to fill this with water, obviously. Let me show you how much I'm going to put. This is basically how much I'm gonna fill. It's right here, so about 1/4 of it. 1, 2, 3, maybe a little bit more than 1/4, but not too high. I did have to change because after repotting the giganteum, I had moss all over myself. So ending this video, we are looking at my rehab tie that is hating me right now. Jing, if you're watching, yes, this is the tie I got from you. It got a bad case of root rot and now we're here. So the oldest leaf is going out very dramatically. It looks like it was just put into a fire. I don't know what it's doing. But in any case, I do have it right now in a mixture of like perlite, leca, fir bark, and moss. But I'm going to try the propagation or the parfait method on this one just for safe measure. But yeah, I guess let's just get this puppy out of there. Yeah, let's just do it here. This is what we're working with. It's not the best. It's definitely not the best, but also not the worst. We have some new root growth right there, right here, and we have a little bit of root signs poking out at the bottom. So it's alive. The stem is super calloused. It's not mushy at all. I'm just gonna clean this up a little bit because I don't like how mushy and soft it is. I just want my substrate to be as clean as possible, but I'm not going to go in there really aggressively like I usually would when I'm cleaning chunks because I'm just afraid of this plant pretty much. I don't know if this is gonna be too small now. Let's see. What am I thinking? What am I thinking? Too small? Yeah. But it's actually the same diameter. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna chop this little part off here that is mushy and black. And I'm gonna dip it in some rooting hormone. So this is actually a combination of rooting hormone. This is actually a combination of rooting hormone and sulfur powder, which has been a great combination for me in terms of like antifungal, as well as callousing and just getting things to root. Did I just knock off that brand new root? I'm gonna cry. Stop it. Where did it go? I think I knocked it off. You see, this is why I can't have nice things. Where did it go? I bet you Yeah, I have no idea where it went. It used to be... What the... Where is it? Guys, it's nowhere to be found. Where is this that tiny little root that I just showed you? How annoying. Okay, well, whatever. It was here, and now it's not. Love that for me. Whatever. We're basically starting over anyway. So we have the vessel here, and now I'm gonna get some leca down at the bottom. And I am worried more so about the stem rotting. I want to keep that nice and healthy. So I'm gonna just fill it with leca till it touches the tip of the stem. And then I'm gonna do the rest with perlite. All right, so I like that I can see this main aerial root along the edges. Oh my gosh, I bent the freaking... Why am I the way that I am? Why? You know what, I'm leaving it, whatever. I like that I can see the aerial root along the edge of this so that I can just kind of keep an eye on it. And then also, I like the fact that my stem is basically above the substrate so that it can be nice and dry. But also I wanted the stem to be still touching the substrate so that it can push some roots out of the stem as well. And I do not want to rely on this aerial root to give me more roots. Given that I just broke off the brand new growth. Awesome. And then I'm just gonna top the rest with moss. The reason why I like topping with moss is because sometimes you can get sometimes you can get roots to push out of the top of the stem. And basically any way you can get more roots is obviously gonna be best for your plant. Yeah. And not only that, I like that I can sprinkle diatomaceous earth on it, on the top. And when sphagnum moss dries up, it's basically like a seal, and it kind of just traps in that moisture down at the bottom, and it kind of prevents it from evaporating really quickly, especially if you're using something like pon. And then when it gets super dry, it's not a very nice environment for fungus gnats to get cozy in. So yeah, I like topping with moss when I can. before I fill it with water, I'm gonna just let it callus a little bit since I just trimmed off one of those aerial roots. But I will fill it to about right here where this aerial root starts, or ends I should say. And then I'll let the wicking of the leca kind of do the work and bring some moisture up to the top. But otherwise, this is the propagation parfait method. It's really easy. You can use anything, like you can use lechuzapon, you can use fir bark, orchiata, you can do just perlite and leca. You don't necessarily need to use the moss, but you just kind of use the substrate that you feel caters to the plant specifically. So let's say, for example, this aerial root was super rotty and I was worried about it rotting a lot. I would probably put perlite all down at the bottom, and then if the stem, like I wasn't really worried about the stem, then maybe I'd do leca up at the top or just moss or something. So it really just depends on your goal for the plant. I am hoping that I can get some roots on this soon before I lose the entire thing. I would be really sad. But otherwise, I don't know, I'm kind of hopeful. So yeah, I'll include this in my update video as well. Okay. Oh, can't see. Oh my gosh, you just sneezed directly. Ew. Do you want to show them the trick we've been working on? He definitely doesn't have it mastered, but he tries. You ready? You're gonna catch it? Let's see if I can get this in slow-mo because it's so funny. Ready? Let's try last one, okay?